Welcome to the Totem Tech Comm podcast. I'm Mike Sandberg, teacher of Totem Tech Comm at Marysville Middle School. Tech Comm is a CTE English class. We all know what English classes are, right? Kids go to class, they learn reading and writing, they learn the elements of literature, those sorts of things. We do all the same things that a regular English class would do, however, we do it through the lens of CTE. CTE is Career and Technical Education. Career and Technical Education programs focus on teaching kids real-world skills with an emphasis on careers so they can be more prepared to join the workforce when they get out of school. Plus, it helps kids explore really what they want to do and broaden their horizons in that way. So how we incorporate that in my class is we use animation as our tool. So we learn how to write, we learn how to read, we might learn reading informational texts, we might learn poetry, and then we're going to take those concepts and we're going to turn them into an animated script. Now, students work on these animated scripts in small groups called production crews. Each production crew has a producer, a writer, an animator, an audio engineer, they have voice talent. And those skills, learning to work together, learning to communicate, are some of those 21st century skills that are so important in our workforce. So when students come up with a story, for example, they'll work in the production crews to develop the idea further, and then they'll turn it into an animated script, and they'll work together to not only figure out what the characters are saying, but figure out what they're doing, figure out how they're going to animate it. Then they go and they figure out what animations they're going to add. When they're all done, students will work with their crews to record the audio in one of our 3 recording studios. In the recording studios, they have access to mixing boards and microphones, much like this one. They can even record on the Chromebooks using our more portable equipments that we can provide for them. So, if they don't actually get something done in class, they could do it at home. When they're done recording the audio, they will edit the audio using a program like Audacity, which is a program we provide on one of our 7 in-class workstations. When they're done editing their audio, they then animate. And the whole process here involves a lot of reading because they have written they have written instructions they have to follow while they're learning these programs. They don't just teach it to them, because one way we learn to read is by reading the instructions and applying what they learned. So a lot of times students will ask me what to do and how do I do this and I don't understand. I'm like, well, have you read it? And they'll usually say no, and then I'll point them to the right directions and ask them to read a section. And once they start reading it, they learn really quickly. They learn the program. They've been empowered to get their work done because they now have the skills and they have the access to the information. And their reading scores go up because they're learning how to read and apply and pull out important information. This year, we've probably not done as much animating as I'd like to, but 7th graders have worked on 3 different animation projects. The first one was a dance project, and the second one was a monologue as they wrote poetry, and then they got in groups and chose a poem to animate. So each group animated a poem, and those were 20 to 30 seconds long. And those have been posted to our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/@TotemTechComm. You can also access it by going to thornton.com. Now, that brings us to what the 8th graders are doing. They're working on our animated series, Thornton. Last year, we created Thornton. Thornton is the first animated series created by middle school students. And it's created right here in Marysville in our classroom. Our students wrote and they created this digital world. And they wrote scripts for that, and then used characters and created all these family relationships. And then I'd pitch them problems, and they would each come up with short stories about how the problem got solved or what the characters did. And then the class would vote on which one to turn into an episode. And then we would break up, and each crew would produce their own episode. So we usually have 6 or 7 production crews working together. And when that's all done, and they've all done the voice acting and the animating and all that, then I have students we work together to create the episode and add all the sound effects and the music. And sometimes kids even write the music and perform the music for our episodes. So if you look at like our theme song or episode 9, had 2 different original songs in it from students. It's a lot of fun. Kids can really get into it and really get involved in the process. It's really something special students have that they've produced. When you ask students, what have you done in school? A lot of times they don't necessarily think of a lot, but when you give them a project that they've accomplished, they'll remember that. And a digital project is never going away. It's on YouTube. It'll be there forever. Something you can show the grandkids. So look what we did. So a lot of fun stuff going on in my class when students engage in the process and get involved. Every student has the opportunity to get involved as they're provided with all the technology they need and all the time in the world to get done in class, which is, it's even more great because students don't have to worry about having to go home and not have access to the things they need. But if they don't get it done in class, they do have access. I have equipment that students could take home. One reason I'm filming my first episode here is to demonstrate, look, you can film this stuff at home. You can record at home. But we don't only work on animation and English. We work on student projects. So students also get to work at least once a week on student projects, a project of their choosing that has some sort of digital component in the end. We're going to talk more about that on episode 2 of the Totem podcast. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.